All right, Fit Fam, let's get down to it. Coach Rye from Team Flex here. We're going to be getting into the Arnold Classic Bikini. We're going to look at our top 5 competitors, talk about these placings, why they landed the way they did, and what it means for you as a bikini competitor out there trying to do your best on stage or just understand the criteria better, right? That's why I try to make these videos, make this content, and that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be very exciting. All right, let's dive into it. First thing I do want to say, I am a bit under the weather here, so sorry for my voice if it sounds off today, but let's get down to it. So Vania is our winner here at the Arnold Classic, and that is a huge win for her. Very exciting. Amy takes second over here. Ashlyn takes third. So these are going to be the 3 that we're going to look at first and foremost. And I did get a ton of messages from people kind of asking me, hey, what do you think of these placings? How did they land this way, right? Like, why didn't Amy win? Why didn't Ashley? Well, let's dive into it, okay? So bikini division, as we know it, is all about the hourglass shape, and that's going to be created by a combination of, the shoulders tapering into the midsection, coming back into the lower body, the glute development, everything. You're going to be hard-pressed to find any of these athletes in our top 5 here not showcasing this. It's just the way that it goes, right? They're the top pros in that sense. The top 5 here at the Arnold Classic is, very prestigious placing, and that is something that translates very well to reflect the criteria. So we're going to see that across the board with all these athletes here, and I think what we should really focus on are some of the biggest differences that I think we're really kind of seeing bikini division evolve into. And also, if you didn't watch the wellness video, if you at all follow along with wellness, we did see a lot of the same kind of things as far as maybe criteria shifts taking place. So let's talk about Vania here. So realistically, what we can see is, that shoulder development and the fullness, it's all there. This is very much where you should be in bikini division. We should be able to see that roundness, front delt, lateral delt, all that coming through. Rear delt we'll see from the back. Now, where you want your shoulders in bikini should be to hypertrophy that shape and that development, really bring that through without getting too far. You start to build the shoulders too much, it does score you negatively, because typically what will happen is your shoulders, they get bigger, you start to become imbalanced to the lower body and everything else. So if we want symmetry, this hourglass shape in this division, you really got to make sure that all your muscle groups do tend to match together. So you don't want to overdo any which one, or it can throw your aesthetic off a bit, and then boom, you're facing a little bit of a shift in placing. And this especially will happen to you at the amateur levels. All you NPC competitors here watching, all you trying to get a pro card watching, this happens to you much more than it does the pros. Pros been doing this a long time, and especially when you're placing top 5 at Arnold, your imbalances, if you have any, are going to be far reduced compared to what you would see at the amateur level. So definitely something for all you amateur bikini competitors to keep an eye on as you are training, is really that balance of your muscle groups, right? So Vania really has that. It ties together great. I see it also into her, bicep, tricep here, where the shoulders really do kind of take the show for the upper body. Her bicep and tricep are not appearing too big, too developed, anything. They match right with that, and that's what you really want to have your torso look like in bikini. Your shoulders take the show, maybe a little bit of a lat sweep, and then you're getting into the waist. So very narrow waist for her, tapers in very well. That's pretty much exactly what you would want to see here. Creates this very dramatic hourglass aesthetic, and it's really on point. Conditioning wise, pretty much nails the condition, right? Where we can see obliques, everything come through, a couple lines here in the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings, maybe just a tad over here. And that's, again, a softer level of conditioning. When I say softer, I mean compared to other divisions such as figure, fitness, women's physique, where you get leaner and leaner, right? Bikini was, for the longest time, the softest division we would have in that hierarchy. Now that we have Fit Model coming to play, it will be softer than that. But the point is, either way, it is a softer level of conditioning where you don't want to show those deep cut striations or anything. And I think she really nails that look, pulls off those lines that you would want to see, and that is the story of condition, right? Looking lower body now, what you would want to see is the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings all kind of tie together and match what's going on in the upper body. That's how you create that hourglass aesthetic. That's what's going to favor you on stage. So she really does have that. It's hard to say any muscle group on her is out of balance, out of, criteria, shape, or condition at this point. So really from the front, I mean, we're talking about very, very minimal things to say that could be a little bit off or improved. This is just a totally nailed look for her. And that's a very, very good quality, win for the Arnold Classic for everybody out here watching, trying to get an idea of where things are going. Looking over at Amy now takes second. A lot of people asking me how did Amy not win, how this and that. So looking at Amy, she does have a lot of the similarities. Obviously, she's going to be right there with her condition, with her shape overall, with everything that's going to tie together here to bring the hourglass. No doubt a great representation of the criteria. She's got the fullness to the shoulder. Bicep, tricep, everything kind of matches here. Tapers in at the waist well, glutes, quads, hamstrings. Now, I want to talk about how I think, Vania ends up winning this class versus her. Realistically, Amy, I think, has a little bit too much muscle just in general. I don't know if that's really going to be the case, coming from, maybe Tyler Manuel will do some videos talking about the placings, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I think that, she just appears to be a little bit more developed even in pretty much every muscle group, right? Like if we look at the shoulders, her shoulders no doubt are bigger. They're more developed. They look to be, kind of pushing that line of bikini size. And I've said this about Amy's physique before when I've been reviewing competitions. I think that that's an issue point for her, can be at times at least, and we'll see where that takes her next. But realistically, I think just in this lineup for sure can tell, okay, she has definitely bigger shoulders than Vania does at this point. So that is an indicator to me that they don't want the bigger muscle on the bikini stage as much. Granted, she's top 2, but it's also a clear message with placings in a way of where the season may head. Looking at that next, right, tapers into the waist. She's got the solid waist where it should be. Conditioning's right on par. Good conditioning, glutes, quads, everything. Her glutes do, lower body wise, stand out to be a little bit big to me though, right? Like looking at this compared to her quads and her hamstrings, they're a little bit maybe oversized compared. So again, another effect, and maybe that's how this is purposely laid out so that it can match with the shoulders, everything there, right? But the point is, either way, those are two very key differences, I think, right? We look at Vania's physique, glutes and quads and hamstrings all match very, very well, matches the shoulder size very, very well, matches where the waist tapers very, very well. I mean, it's very, very symmetrical, balanced look, which is really what judges are going for in bikini. Amy still achieves that look. She still pulls that off, but there are some things you could say, okay, well, maybe the shoulders just a tad too much, maybe, the glutes just a tad too much. You could go any which way, and obviously, competitions and placings can go any which realm. All great representations of criteria either way. Just wanted to try to give you all, the viewers, further insight into exactly how these placings could be going down like this, and also where the criteria may go, because for those of you that don't know, the Arnold Classic, right, like, is the beginning of the season pretty much. So all you competitors out here, as we see these shifts happen, this kind of gives you a better idea of what you can be bringing to stage later this year. Looking over here at Ashlyn now. So Ashlyn really does tie together pretty well. I mean, there were some kind of call-outs and things you could have said, okay, well, maybe she could win this. Looking at that, the judges did move them all around a lot, kind of put them in the middle and everything. Like, it could have gone Amy's way, it could have gone Ashlyn's way. You really could have known just watching it, but by the end of scoring and everything else, obviously it all tallies up. And here we can see she has, the good shape overall. Everything ties in well. And really what I think, again, for her, maybe just a tad, it does look a little bit imbalanced in the upper body, just a little bit more size than you may typically, think to see, at least compared to Vania, right? Like we can see some pretty big bicep, tricep here compared to the shoulders. So again, I think these things become factors. And, from the front, all 3 athletes are very close. And they're very, there. It's all right in that criteria, but there are going to be some differences as well, right? And for her, I think that's one. It doesn't really maybe have as tight of a condition either, right? Like we can see some oblique line. We can see some of this going through here. Slight lines down here, but Vania does look a tad tighter than Ashlyn does in this lineup. So even if they're maybe right on par with musculature, maybe just a tad tighter was the key for that pull off right there. But, as we always say, can't really ever judge anything just based on the front. There's always the back, and that's obviously what really does kind of tie in to win bikini events. And this is where I think we get, the full picture, the full message right here. So obviously Vania in the middle, the winner, obviously Amy over here and Ashlyn over here still. And let's take a look at these three. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this content, you like these types of things, subscribe, follow along, drop me a comment, even if it's just like, hey, love the videos, thanks, appreciate that, because, you know, that keeps me pumping. If you want to see more of the call outs from Arnold, by the way, comment that as well. I'll bring that out because I'm only doing top 5 in this video, but I can do more for sure, especially if it's going to help you out there gain better insight. That's what I do this for. All right, so let's look. So from the back, shoulders, you should just see a little bit of that development in bikini, a little bit of that roundness. Rear delt, like I said, we would see on her. There it is. It's all there. Tapers into the waist still. This is basically what judges are looking at here. And obviously lower body is going to be their main focus. So you want to see upper glute roundness and fullness, overall glute roundness and fullness, a slight separation between glute and hamstring tie-in, and then looking to the lower body, you basically want to see with hamstrings and quads these muscle groups to match, not to be overdone, not to push too far any which way, and really kind of in bikini you're letting the glutes be the focus. Wellness, you know, obviously we know there's going to be factors of quads, hamstrings, a lot more there. Bikini, you want all this balance and that symmetry to work together, where nothing looks out of balance, out of symmetry, and you want to pull that conditioning through with just that slight tie-in, which again, very hard to say that Vania has very much to improve on here from the back. She does kind of a little bit lose her shoulder size here, just a little bit, so maybe, you know, that's something that could be just brought up to kind of match the lower body, but it is a very much so very on par look with this, you know, criteria and division. Makes total sense to me why she would win this class, and, you know, also why this may be a move from judges to kind of reset our criteria a bit. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but let's look over here at Amy next. So Amy, again, very much a dominant look from the upper body. Here's what I get kind of right away, right? We can definitely see a lot more shoulder size, a lot more just width up top. She has a lot more muscle, like I said, and same into the lower body. So we start to see a little bit more of that quad sweep action from the back, size in the quads there, and her glutes are definitely, in my opinion, you know, out of balance compared to the rest of the muscles in her lower body. She has very, very much hypertrophied her glute development. Upper glute is all there, everything that you would want to see, but it's just so much bigger in context compared to, you know, the other athletes in the call out, and also just even on her physique, it looks to be a little bit imbalanced. So again, these points that you could maybe go on there that could make the difference. Top 2, nothing to scoff at. Great physique, great representation of the criteria, but I do think with Vania taking the win here, it's a pretty clear message, because there is a lot of difference between the other two in this call out, in the top 3, in other words, and her. Let's look over at Ashlyn now. So Ashlyn, a lot of similarities. Honestly, I could see looking from the back how Ashlyn may have even been able to get to up to, up next to Vania here, based on where they were going. It's interesting. Again, it's probably just a few points that separate these ladies here. And realistically, she has all the markers, shoulders there, tapers in, everything's good. Maybe just a tad under on her development as far as what you would need, in her glutes, right? So it just looks a little bit, maybe just a tad flat up into the upper glute, just a little bit there. And the tie-in's all good. Everything's there. Quad size, hamstring size, everything seems to be on par. Maybe just a little bit more of that development in the glutes would have kind of pushed her up there, because really Vania does have that really super 3D effect to the glute development there, which again, maybe that's the difference in this lineup. All right, so let's bring in now our 4th and our 5th in this lineup. So 4th over here is Maria, and then 5th over here is going to be Ariana. So we're looking at now, 4th and 5th coming up next to Vania here, who's first, wins the class, wins the Arnold. I think we start to get a better representation of where criteria could be heading, and I have, some ideas and thoughts I want to share with you guys near the end of the video here about where I think bikini could be heading this season and maybe ongoing. It'll be very interesting to see, but let's get down to it. So looking at Maria, all the same markers, like at this event, all the top 5 is very, very close in a lot of ways as far as the physiques that they brought and the quality within criteria. Everybody's pretty much on point, right? So to the untrained eye, a lot of you watching maybe even are like, okay, well, I'm having a hard time seeing a lot of these differences. Well, that's partially because, you might not have, the eye for it in the way. A lot of competitors don't even have the eye for it, to be honest with you, right? A lot of coaches don't even have the eye because they are too focused on whatever they're doing or, whoever. But point is that, it's partially that. It also could be partially that it is just such a close class. It is such a close group of athletes that it can be hard to look at, right, and really determine differences. But here's where they are, right? Looking at Maria, all those same markers, everything's there. Fullness to the shoulders, taper in the waist, to glutes, quads, hamstrings. What I do think is different for her, though, is, her muscle looks to be a bit more on her frame. So, Vania, she has very compacted muscle look. It's all there, shape, size, everything, proportions, all great. It's all there. But it really does kind of, just stick to her frame a little bit differently, meaning like looking over here at Maria, she kind of looks a little bit upper body forward in a way, right? Like we're getting, a lot of shoulder size, and then it tapers down here and comes back into the glutes. But I do kind of think, her upper body could be a tad overpowering. And it's not necessarily because it's out of proportion. It's more so just the muscle density that's on her physique. So that's one of those things where that can be a factor, maybe in placings. Her conditioning also is not as tight, just a tad, not as tight compared to Vania there. So maybe that's a factor. But realistically, very close quality physique. Just seems to be that there's more muscle on her frame there that may have shifted how things go. Looking over here at Ariana, right? So we can see good shoulder shape overall, hourglass shape, tapers in, comes back out in the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings. So hourglass is there. For her, I think it's just a difference of not the same amount of muscle or conditioning, realistically, right? So if you're looking at the top four there, she's not at the same exact point with the muscularity as far as conditioning goes. We still see the soft lines there and then separations down here. But, we are seeing a little bit of a difference there where maybe the glutes kind of appear a little bit imbalanced. Maybe she's just a tad, wider in the waist here at this angle and everything. So these are all things that can factor in, right? You can look at this leg that's not really the focused leg here, and you can start to see, okay, well, there's some definitely clear differences in muscle density and, just conditioning overall there. So again, maybe one of those factors, top 5, nothing to scoff at, great physique, great quality. I'm just trying to give you guys better insight as we go. Looking from the back here now of all 3 of these ladies, Maria over here, this is where you do really get a lot of upper body though. Kind of like what I was saying, a lot more of that upper body size. It kind of can, it doesn't really compact the same way. If you look at Vania here, it's all there. It ties in well, but the glutes and the quads and, the glutes and the hamstrings and everything in the posterior chain are really the focus. You look over here at Maria, it's a lot more of the upper body appears to be the focus, right? And then you see the lower body after. So a lot of the judging and a lot of the scoring, it does result in how your physique presents. That's one thing to note, but she has the overall upper glute shape. Everything's there. Maybe just a tad bit in the quad here coming from the back. Could also be a little bit of the angle of the camera, but overall just not as much as that muscle projection from the glutes and the hamstrings, not as much of that 3D effect, if you will, and maybe a little bit upper body density there is a factor. And looking over here, this is where I think you can see Ariana does not, she just doesn't have that same muscle density as really any of the other athletes in the call out here. You just don't see it as much. She's got the shoulder shape, everything here. Could be looking a little bit heavy up top even as far as shoulder development goes. Tapers into the waist good. Upper glute is here, overall glutes here, everything's there. It just doesn't look as, dense, a little bit softer in the condition, and maybe not as much muscle into, the lower body or even the upper as far as the front pose goes. So same, quality of physiques, same example for criteria, but big differences in how these are presented, right? And you look at Vania, and that's a very different look for Vania than Ariana in that lineup, right? And that's just how it goes from 4th to 5th. So I think, this call out, this example, Vania winning this class out of these athletes at this event, and then this top 5, I think it becomes a pretty good message that what I've been talking about on this channel may be true, okay? I've said for a while when we saw Fit Model come to play, it came out, it was announced, it was talked about. To me, that became a clear move from NPC IFBB to really kind of focus on maybe reducing the amount of advancement, if you will, in your physique you need to be able to compete, right? Like make it more sustainable for everybody to be able to get into, which obviously Fit Model was, that it's what it is. That's, it's in a lot of ways the introductory division. But what would that do to, bikini and wellness? And, some theorize that it would push it further. I kind of think the opposite. I kind of thought bikini and wellness may pull back a little bit more to their roots in a lot of ways, right? And we definitely saw that with wellness. If you guys have not watched that video, go watch that one. I think we're seeing that with bikini too, because the more muscular athletes that go further down this call out, the more lean ones, the bigger shoulders, all that, they're not placing at the top. And that's just something we kind of see. And we can even see it a little bit here within this top 5, right? The difference between Vania and then some other athletes in this call out and where they go. I mean, it's, I think, a pretty clear message from judges that, hey, bikini's coming back to its roots in a lot of ways. They want, that conditioning to be nailed, no doubt. And they want also you to have that right muscle, no doubt. But they want it to be showcased and presented in the most balance and the most symmetry possible, and not leave a lot of room for anything out of that. Not leave room for bigger shoulders, bigger glutes, bigger this and that. Everything should just match, and it should be symmetrical, and it should be on point. So, again, just some ideas and thoughts. I want to know what you all think watching. What do you guys think? The Arnold, it tends to be a very big marker for the start of our season, okay? It's really something where we see some placings, we see how people are doing, and it gives you a better insight into, where things could be heading as far as criteria goes for this season, this year, and ongoing. I want to know what you think. Do you agree with the placings? Do you think Amy should have won? Do you think Ashton should have won? Do you think Ariana should have won? What about Maria? Any? Let me know. You think somebody not in that top 5 should have won, right? I want to know what you guys think. I love the comments. I love engaging with you in them. And I'll be making more videos. If you want to see more bikini of the Arnold here, right? Arnold Classic Bikini. You want me to go further down the call? You want me to talk about some other athletes? Let me know, and I will do those videos, all right? Thank you for watching. Coach Rye is out.